past haunts us all. Whether it be a person, place, or thing, we are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and tonight I am going to be interviewing a filmmaker, an author, and a long, old-school paranormal investigator from Southern Kentucky. His name is Chris Maggard. I'm not going to waste any time tonight. We're going to bring him right over to the show and introduce you to him. Chris, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
What's happening, dude? What's happening, brother? Just sitting here relaxing, chilling in my office, man.
That's the only way to do it, right?
Absolutely. Heck yeah.
All right, man. I've met you in person a couple years ago at Post Town. I've been following your work for at least 2 or 3 years. I love the stuff that you do. You don't follow into this typical cookie cutter, stuff that people get trapped into when they start to do their own shows about the paranormal and things that stem off from that. Why don't we start all the way back in Southern California in the early 80s? What got you into the paranormal? What got you into the filmmaking part of it and the photography part of it? What is your story?
Well, it all started with the horrific attacks against my sister back in Southern California. And for a while, my parents didn't think it was legit. They just thought we was a bunch of crazy kids until they started seeing it happening towards them. And my sister literally was getting the crap beat out of her by this unseen force, this unseen entity. And it got to a point to where it was so bad to where it almost killed her.
Wow.
Now, yeah, it was bad, dude. It was something that my family, my mom, my dad's not alive no more, but my sister, the one affected, brother, and my other sister, will never forget. Sometimes my mom still is very hesitant to talk about it. My sister that was attacked, she don't want to talk about it because she's scared that it might come back. Years later, I mean, we were teenagers then. Well, I was not even a teenager. I was still a little brat. My sister was just a young teenager, and so you got to figure my sister is 50 years old. So from that point on, that many years, she's still terrified of it. And it was very hard on her, very hard on the whole family. So with that being said, it ignited my curiosity. It's like, how in the hell, as a little kid, I'm thinking, how in the hell can something out of the unknown that we can't see physically hurt us in the living? And so I started reading books. I was a big sci-fi nerd back then anyways. I was all into Star Wars and weird things and Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I said Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes,
and
I love it.
All the way, dude. So, it's just like I started reading books about how in the hell things started like this. And so it took off from there. And then I started doing urban legends. And in the local towns around where I lived. And as I grew older, I started hearing more and more stories and started checking out more things. And then when I lived on my own, the attacks came after me. And I was like, you know what, this is enough. And so I started studying photography and wanted to try to capture the unknown on photography.
So I have to ask, Chris, what do you think brought on these attacks, starting with your sister? What do you think the origin or the reason behind that is?
Well, my mom and dad, once we moved out of that house, here's the crazy thing, dude. Out of that house caught on fire. Then we moved into another house. Things started happening not as bad. Then we moved into another house. things started picking up again. And then when we all moved out, that house caught on fire. Coincidence? Who knows? But my mom and dad did a little research on the original house. And it was in Fountain Valley, California. And come to find out, the guy that owned the house previous to my parents. Hold on, I'm losing a earpiece here. He was a womanizer. He basically thought the only way a woman should say anything is when spoken to, barefoot and pregnant. Do as I say, don't do as I do. And he would beat. He was a beater. So when he was remodeling the house, he had a massive coronary and he died in the house. So my sister, I'm not going to say her name, when we got at the house, my parents moved us in. My sister was a heavy metal chick, wild chick, just living on the edge. She always had the leather on and the bandanas down the legs and hair up to here and Motley Crue all the way. And so she was wild. We come to an idea that what it was is that the energy of that man that owned a house prior to us, or prior to my parents, his energy was still there and did not like the way my sister was, and the attack started out on her. And it got bad. It got really bad. So that's what we think. We can't prove that, but that's what we think. It just people in the neighborhood didn't like this guy. He was an asshole, bottom line. And so we just think that energy went after my sister. And and being a little brother I was, when we got older, I was like, you stay away from my sister, and you want anything, you come after me. Well, be careful what you ask for.
Right.
Because I got it.
So you think that it may have followed you to other homes?
I absolutely do. I honestly believe that this energy was such a strong force that it followed me because I was trying to protect my big sister. I didn't want to see her crying anymore. I didn't want to see her in fear. And so I'm trying to be the little tough little brother and say, you leave her alone. You come after me. And that's when shit started happening. I forgot to ask, are we allowed to cuss?
Yes, dude. You can say whatever the hell you want within reason, right?
Okay. Right. All right, cool. I just forgot to ask. But, I guess what happened when I moved out of that house, the final house that caught on fire the last time, that's when the attacks got really heavy on me, and I had to say, screw this noise. And I had a man of the church come into my home. He did a blessing, but he also said that if you have anything left from your house when you was a kid, when you lived with your parents and your sister, it'd probably be a good idea to get rid of it. So I had a little Tonka toy truck. I had to get rid of that. So a jacket that I had when I lived with my family, with my sister when I was a kid, I had to get rid of that. Little memorabilia things I had to get rid of just to be safe. And I still didn't feel safe with that. So I even got a high priestess from the Wiccan community to come and do a blessing. So, and after that, man, I just went full-fledged, big time. And that's when I met a buddy of mine after I studied years of photography. A buddy of mine had a film company, and that kind of took me in that direction and got to see historical places. And that just intrigued my interest in the paranormal even more.
Right. I can't think of anything, short of, being attacked and having a family member attacked, getting you into the paranormal. It's like you really don't have a choice. And I can relate with that because I can't relate with the attack part, but people who grow up experiencing profound stuff like that feel like, people who have not gone through that feel like they make you feel like you're crazy or you're a liar, and you just feel like an outsider. Did you feel like that growing up?
Oh, the whole family did. We all felt like we were just, people would look at us like we're just out of our friggin' minds. It's like, you guys are just crazy. You're stupid. And then finally, in the 1980s, here comes a movie by Steven Spielberg called Poltergeist, and we're all sitting there watching this going, that's the shit we went through.
Yeah, dude, that movie scared the living shit out of me.
I mean, except for going into a vortex and coming out through the ceiling. None of that happened. But I mean, the attacks, the fear of living in your own home, afraid to go home because you don't know what's going to happen. Um, all of us always huddling together, make sure we're all together. And it's just like you literally feel like you're a prisoner in your own home
Wow.
because you just can't up and move. My dad had a job, my mom had a job. They just can't up and reroute somewhere away from that house. You just can't. I mean, and you deal with as much as you can until finally say enough's enough. And then finally, my dad found a new job, and that's where we were able to move finally. So, but I mean, financially, mentally, it was very hard on all of us, and very physically, because we started to turn on each other. We was always angry because a lot of us weren't getting sleep. We were scared. We didn't know what was going to happen next.
Right.
We lived in a house of hell.
Wow. That's very crazy, Chris. So were you talk about a little bit before we shift gears how you were able to get out of that situation?
Well, with our parents moving us away from that house, and then we got into the other house. That's when I started diving more into the paranormal, even then, in my teenage years, and exploring the unknown in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. My parents put a halt to it. It was not allowed to be talked about. My mom had crosses everywhere, a Bible in every room, and it was pretty much, this is it. We're done. We're not going to deal with this anymore. Cut it out. I, on the other hand, was so intrigued and didn't want nothing else to happen. I kept diving more and more into it. And then when I moved out on my own and I had that experience, I had to say, I had to kind of put a stop to it for the attacks on me, but it never stopped me from venturing forward to it because I became more obsessed with it. It became an obsession, not a passion. Some people say, "Oh, the paranormal field's a passion." No, it became an obsession for me, and it still is. Not as much as it was back then, but it still is. So, for my family, with the help of God and belief within ourselves and each other, I could say for my family, they have never had any problems ever since they left those houses, and because they put a stop to it in their minds and in their heart and their souls, with the grace of God.
That's
On the other hand,
Mhm.
I didn't.
Right. Well, that's an interesting part of the story that we're going to get into, but just for people watching that may have gone through something similar, or if they're going through something similar at the moment, what's the best piece of advice you'd give them? Just basically what you said: stand up against it, use your faith and your will.
Um, you can stand up against it, but since it's more acceptable to society today. There's many other outreaches. I really encourage somebody to, and I'm not denouncing anybody in the paranormal field. If you got something that is horrific as what my family went through, please reach out to a man of God. I don't care whoever you believe in. It doesn't matter. Um, if you're Muslim, if you're Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, there is somebody in each faith that will help you, and reach out to them. And I think that's going to be your best bet if you have something that aggressive in your home. Yeah, you can reach out to people like us as a paranormal team, but like I always said, even when I had my paranormal team, there's things that we can't handle. We go in there, we investigate, we try to find out logical reasons. That was our job. My job is not to hold an exorcism. My job is not to dispel any demonic activity or evil spirits. That's not my job. My job is to find out the baseline of what's going on and why it's going on, and come up with some answers. There's people in this field just like people in a job. You have workers, and it just goes up the chain. It's the same way in the paranormal field. You have workers. I'm a worker. You have management. That's your church guys, your demonologists, your priests, and those are the guys that handle the hard stuff, not me.
Right on, brother. Okay, well, let's shift gears. Let's talk
Okay.
about how you started from Cali and came over here to northern Kentucky. What brought you over?
Live in California and you'll figure it out. I'm
Well,
sorry.
Drew Hastings said the same thing. He's the mayor. He's the mayor of Hillsborough right now, and he's a comedian. I don't know if you've heard of him, and he's from the California area and that whole thing. So he said he was grounded in the whole farm country, being on a farm in that type of environment. So did that help you get away from all that stuff, outside of the haunting?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. When leaving California was a big decision. It was an easy one, but it was a big one. Um, because life out there is way too much, man. It's way too fast. And my whole family already moved out here to Kentucky. And so and after my dad passed away, the rest moved out here. And my dad's originally from Kentucky. He was born here in Southern Kentucky. And so it's kind of like a big circle. I ended up back here in Kentucky. And I tell you what, it was a blessing to get away from there, from Southern California, and coming out here. Yeah, I had a lot of great experiences with the film industry when I got to work in there for 5 years. But moving out here, it was a blessing. I feel more grounded. I feel my stress level went from way up here living in California, and now it's way down here. And I agree. I'm grounded living out here. I love it. I absolutely love it. I feel more clear. My mind's clearer, man.
Right, I can relate. I've been out there, and actually, it was Northern California for a while, so it's a lot different from Southern California. But
Yeah.
it's the difference was night and day between how you felt and the people that you surrounded yourself with and just your environment. If you feel like you ever want to escape somewhere, you have to go to somewhere that's very different. And I think that you picked a pretty decent spot, and then you kind of landed yourself right into what I like to call the heart of haunted America. What do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think right where you're at is in the center of a lot of haunted history?
You know what? It's funny you say that, dude. Because when I moved out here, I was so blown away with the history of the Cincinnati, Newport, Kentucky area. And then I heard about all the gambling, the gangs, the gangsters, not gangs, gangsters, the mob scene and everything and Prohibition era. And just, I'm like, holy crap. And then the haunted scenery here was just huge. I'm like, wow. And that's when I started looking for people to help me explore this haunted history out here in this area. And I was like, if you was to take a map and you put a circle right on Cincinnati, northern Kentucky border, you could take that circle and there's going to be leech lines going off that thing in every friggin' direction. And
Right.
it's mind blowing, man.
Right.
And I was just like, God dang, this is like a gold mine of haunted history.
Yeah, it's a very unique area. I've been around the U.S. and there's no place like this area. I think it's really interesting how hauntings can change and the frequency and the types of phenomena that can occur. Did you see a difference from out west in California compared to here?
Oh yeah, man, there is a big difference. I mean, I guess it's a product of your environment, as I like to say. Everything out there in California is fast and mainstream, and the history there, you got the gold mine rush there for history, and then you got the battles of with when settlers are going out there and they're crossing the Great Divide and all this, and the battle of the Indians and new territory, and then the Mexican and the Mexican wars that they had because United States was growing and taken away from Mexico, and it was just there's a lot different history and haunted history out there. Here, you're basically looking like Cincinnati, St. Louis, New York are the beds. Gangsters, we're talking early gangsters that came over from England and Scotland and Ireland, and they're here and they settled through New York and they span out and they started building Cincinnati. And then Cincinnati just got so huge with, the coal mine industry, and so this was the bed of America, if that makes sense. This is where everything was laid out and spread out from here. So everything is absolutely different from here than out west. It's night and day. Absolutely.
I'm going to have to agree with that. So, the filming side of things, when did that start to really take off for you? And when did you decide that you were going to go out on your own and do your own thing?
Well, once I started my paranormal team, um, let's say, let's get it around 2005. Um, when I started that out here, it was going great for a while. And then I finally found a good group of guys to work with, and that was Chad Summerfield, Patrick Seals, Jake Stockman, Rick White. We were looked at by this guy named Matthew Kazee, who owns a network on Roku. It's called Paranormal Reality TV. He wanted us to come on there and do a show. So it's like, all right, always want to do filming, so let's give it a try as long as we have creative control. He said, not a problem. So we did that, and I started to enjoy it, and I started enjoying it even more. I was like, okay, this is what I like to do. Well, things went great for 5 seasons, and we did good. We got up there, and we stayed on top, and that's fine. I don't want to go downhill. I want, we decided to go our own ways. Pat's got a family life to do, and Chad's got family, and Rick retired, and he lives overseas, and Jake retired, and he became, he just got married and stuff like that. And I had a couple other guys that were part of the team. They were great. One moved to Florida. That was Paul Santos. He was part of the team. And then Stephen Bernstein, another great friend of mine he lives up there in Cincinnati, just above it. He started doing his own thing. So early this year, in January, I decided, you know what? I want to do my own thing. And I've heard so many stories of urban legend stories, and that's why I decided to take the search and change it to Chris Maggard's Urban Legends. And Urban X, not Urban Legends. And it's exploration of forgotten history. And then I decided, well, let's just make Creepy Attic Productions official. So we made it official in January. Now I'm going into more filmmaking. We just did a documentary early last year, or this year, in Harlan, Kentucky, called The Manziel Shepherd Story. And this was my first big production, but it was paranormal related. So with that being said, we filmed a complete history of Harlan, Kentucky, and what this Manziel Shepherd did in the 1950s. And then we got to investigate the location where his trial was, and he was murdered in the courtroom by the nephew of a man that he killed. Wow. That's why he was on, yeah. And the nephew got away with it in front of 300 people in the courtroom. And so it is said that Manziel Shepherd's spirit still lingers in that courthouse. And on the very top,
I bet. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No, you're right. On the very top level of that courthouse, there's 2 layers of prison cells. And so, yeah, we got to go investigate the whole thing. I don't do night vision. I don't do that no more. I sold all my night vision stuff. I do regular camera lighting, lights on, lights off, don't matter. It's regular camera lighting. I got big camera rigs now, and I find that it's more real to me. Night vision, I think, is overdone, man. It's the same old. You see it on every TV show. You see it on every paranormal investigation, and it's just like, okay, and I'm not discrediting anybody who uses it, man. It's just me personally. I don't like night vision anymore.
Well, me being a photographer and filmmaker, I know that night vision looks like crap compared to, diffused, regular video light when it comes to lighting. And,
right.
I'd like to, real quick, we can talk about that, the debate between, is infrared or full spectrum lighting actually doing anything in the field? and I'm not quite sure that it is. Um, I haven't seen anything, me personally, that would think that the theory behind things that you would see visually being able to be more visible in those spectrums of light. I don't see that becoming something that is provable, or we're not finding evidence that supports that theory. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that, and I'll add something to that to make people think. Imagine night vision has been around a lot longer than it has been in the consumer hands, and it's been used by the military. We can take it all the way back to the 1970s and 80s, night vision, and it's been handled by the military. Now, think about this. If it's been handled by the military and they've been using it in the battlefield where many men and women have lost their lives, wouldn't you thought at some point some military guy who's out there with his night vision goes, what the hell was that? But they
Right.
never have seen anything. Never has it been reported they have captured anything of the unknown. In the years they've been using it,
Hmm.
it got popular with the TV shows because you're seeing a new spectrum of light. Even I got sucked into the idea of it. I'm guilty. I'm like, yeah, man, we're shooting a different spectrum light because we might capture something. But if we stop and think about it, every time we hear somebody say, well, I seen this apparition or I seen this shadow figure with the lights on during the day. There was no night vision. And you
Right.
can't see a shadow figure in the dark because a shadow is dark.
Right.
So you can't see it. So I think night vision, it's cool. It was cool for the time when it became more accessible for us consumers. Um, but it's overplayed. And I'm with you 100%. I haven't seen anything captured. The only thing, like, I'll take one thing back. Well, we was at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, but this wasn't a shadow figure or anything of any sort. Patrick Seals was filming down the hall, and you've seen this. I call it energy flux. I'm not going to call it an orb because I don't believe in orbs. I call it an energy flux because you see this white shimmering thing just contorting and twisting and bending and then dissipating and recreating and then finally dissipating. And that was it. It basically took out the area that it was in. It knocked out the night vision. It was just a light of white, and it was just contorting and twisting. And so to me, it was like a manifestation of energy
Right.
trying to perform and form, but it never had enough energy to do it. But that's the only thing I could say that we was happening using night vision at the time. Other than that, no. I think it's just it's not worth it to me.
So
But
you
that's
didn't.
just my opinion.
Right. Right. And that's what we're after. Definitely would like to hear your opinion on that and everybody's opinion, because we need to be honest and we need to air things like that out, because uh, it's important to allow the field to progress and to learn from each other and to be real about the things and try to detach ourselves from the stuff that they do on TV for other reasons, which are night vision looks creepier, but
It does.
you didn't see the anomaly with your eyes down the hallway, but you seen it on the infrared camera, so that made you think that maybe there was something going on there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But can I say 100% it was paranormal? No, I can't. It was unknown, and that's how we left it unknown because we can't explain how that happened.
Right.
We can't. We have. I'm not a scientist. None of us are scientists. Even though people say we use scientific methods, no, you use it as a tool that was developed by an engineer, which is basically a scientist. So, we're not scientists. Now, there might be some scientists out there that have a degree saying they took 4 years and they got a BA in science. But I can't explain how that energy looking type thing happened. I just leave it as unknown.
Right. I will say that you can do science and good science without being a scientist, but it helps to know what good science is versus, the pseudoscience. But what's interesting about what you
Right.
said is I seen something very similar. The only time I've ever seen anything with my own eyes was not, using night vision, but, with lamplight in a bedroom. And it was very similar to what you explained. And What's interesting about that is most of the phenomena that's out there to see with the eye that involves the optics of the eye aren't
Mhm.
usually apparitions. They can look like shadow people, like they have the shape of a human. They're humanoid shaped. There could be like mist formations that kind of look like a person, but I
Right.
really think that people, when they see full fledged apparitions, that they're not usually seeing that with their eyes. That's a whole nother sense that they may be, a whole nother, sense of, other than their eye that they're using to perceive that. What do you think about that?
Well, the only thing I could say about that is when let me track back to when the attacks happened at my house,
Hmm.
my parents' house in California. I seen this figure down the hallway. I had to get up and go pee as a little kid. I had to go in the bathroom hall, and there was something standing right there. And we had a nightlight in the bathroom, so it lit up the hallway a little bit.
Right.
And you see this, like what I call the predator effect of a human form type shape, and just standing there. And yeah, I froze, didn't know what to do, went back to my room because it just walked in the bathroom and left. I'm not going to go in the bathroom and find out what the hell that was. Um, so coming back up to now with what you're saying, I think people want to see something so bad that their mind is already preset with preconceived notions that when they go into some dark, dismal place, they are going to see something, and because they want to see it so bad. And sometimes, like I would tell my guys when we would get ready to go to places, I said, let's clear our mind. Let's act like we're going to go into this abandoned asylum, even though we know it's the word asylum's attached to it, and the word crazy is attached to the word asylum. We got to try to erase that out of our mind, like we're going into Walmart
Hmm.
and you're dealing with the crazies of Walmart instead. So you got to think like that, and because you're going to set yourself up for failure. And I think a lot of people do, but they don't stop and think about it, and they impose on it and put it out there, and like this is what we caught. And so, and it's not their fault, it's not their fault because they want to help the community so bad to grow, and I get it. So I think if we put ourselves in the state of mind that it's not there, it's not real, and we break it all down and we come up with some type of science logical reasoning, we're going to help develop the field better.
Right. And I think the word that sums up what you're saying is being objective. And when you be
Yes.
objective and you don't allow yourself to be influenced by subjective things, like you were saying, some bias you may have or preconception of a place, or things that may
Mm,
tend to be psychosomatic, the things, the hairs raising up in your arm, or
right.
anything that's subtle. Oh, I think I was touched, or a shadow play. All that was a demon. Your mind can have like some kind of artistic license to go outside what is actually happening, if you will.
Right.
So what you're saying is we need to be more objective and look at things, in a way that where we try to find rational explanations first. And when we exhaust all those things and we try to replicate what we can't understand and what might be there, then we might want to, start looking at the paranormal origins of such things.
Well, and it's funny you just said that word origins. And Patrick Shields and I sat down one day and we started reading up on different science ideas. There's quantum physics and quantum mechanics and stuff to look into, and even though that's still considered a pseudoscience, but if you think about it, we come over to this determination. And I read this book, and I still can't remember this doctor's name. I've been trying to find it. In the 1970s, this physician, the surgeon, wrote a book about atomic memory. And what that means is the atoms of our body are released when we die. So does those atoms retain our memories? And is that what we're dealing with when we go out there and do communications with the unknown and we pick up something on our voice recorders that responds to exactly what we're talking about, or we pick up Mary because Mary lived in that house? Is her atom still there and is still retaining her memory? So I would like to believe that when we die, those atoms are actually what we're dealing with. It would dismiss the word paranormal because we actually have a basis of an idea what it is. And it's the atoms, the pure energy, call it a soul, call it the life force of our bodies, is retaining our memories like they retain energy. So is that possible? Very possible. Mm-hmm. And it's something to it's something to look at besides just the word paranormal.
I just ran across a thread today that was talking about the very same thing. When I read it real quick to you, and then we'll see what the viewers think and what you think. I know you're going to agree with this, but I want to know for sure. I ran across a post in a paranormal group that led to a thread about paranormal phenomena not being explained by science. Since I have been trying to apply science to my paranormal research, I had a statement of my own. Let me know what your opinion is. My statement was as follows. I would like to say that our present methods and applications of science cannot presently explain paranormal phenomena. In a perfect world, evidence of paranormal phenomena is replicated, predicted, and understood through physics. The mitigating factors that are involved with real paranormal phenomena are not known, so no scientific experiment or observation can produce the evidence that the scientific community needs. In my opinion, paranormal researchers should spend all of their time trying to collect data and learn what these mitigating factors are. Moreover, there is plenty of actual phenomena that exist to explain a paranormal event, but the problem lies within the source and the mechanics of the phenomena. This type of approach is what I deem real paranormal research.
Absolutely.
So I think everybody out there that likes to apply science to what they're doing, because they've had the experiences just like you cannot deny that what you experienced was paranormal. There's no other explanation for it. So with that, with you knowing that, you have to say, okay, how am I going to go about understanding this more? Am I going to apply science? Because like we just mentioned, the definition of paranormal means that it lies outside the realm of scientific understanding or explanation. But I think that a lot of us like to try to take the para out of the paranormal and say, hey, wait a minute. It is explainable using physics and science. We just don't know what the mitigating factors that cause it to be so troublesome. Like you can't replicate it. One method may not work the next day or in another location. You may go in, someone may move into the house you lived in back in the 80s in Southern California and experience nothing. So they, of course, they're going to say, well, he must have been imagining it, and full well you weren't. So what are those mitigating factors? That's what we need to, try to pin down.
I think what started it for us, what got me and Pat to really dig into it more and start understanding about the atoms, was using vibrational frequencies. Mm-hmm. And because everything around us is in flux. Everything has a vibrational frequency. That microphone in front of you, your desk sitting in front of you, the chair I'm sitting in, mm-hmm. the wall behind me, everything has a vibrational frequency because it's all made of atoms, molecules. So it's always doing this, constantly vibrating, moving. So we decided, okay, let's start doing things with vibrational frequencies. Let's create certain tones, all the way from infrasound up to almost 10,000 hertz, which is actually bad for the human. Patrick Shields designed these tones that would affect certain areas with positive outcomes, or let's say a positive response. In some areas, just dead silence. We would go into a prison and use these tones. The whole building would just vibrate. It would seem like we would get responses that we can't explain, of the unknown, aka paranormal. We go into a hospital, a normal hospital that's no longer in service. Same tones, dead silence afterwards. Basically, it's like it just scare everything off. And that's kind of like the data that we logged down. That was basically one thing we data logged. It says it seemed that these tones would work in a more aggressive setting that was known for more aggressive activities when people were still alive, opposed to the place we're in now, where it was more sadness and people are sick and trying to get better and they die slowly from their illnesses or whatnot. So it was more of a sad place than a more somber place. So it would just scare off the energy that was there.
That's
so that was, yeah. So it was very interesting. That's where we started getting into, okay, we're dealing with atoms. We're dealing with vibrational frequencies. So maybe these atoms are retaining our memories, the atomic memory. So that's how we just kind of kept going with that. And now I'm talking to a buddy of mine. I've been talking with him for a year to build a device for me. His name is James Clarida. He's an amazing designer when it comes to equipment, because he doesn't like the standard equipment you see out there. Mm-hmm. It's another vibrational frequency tone emitter. If something gets close that is energy related, the tones will go up and vibrate even harder. So that's an interesting design that we're working on right now. But again, I'm not doing your typical paranormal thing anymore. I really haven't before, but I've always thought outside the box.
Primarily the content you publish and put out there is not going to be centered on the paranormal. You're going, elsewhere with the storytelling, which I like, and I can't wait to see some of the stuff, your new stuff I haven't seen yet, but I can't wait to see it. But behind the scenes on your own, I don't see you stopping, messing around with this, that, or the other. And I hope you continue to do that, because I still think you have something to offer in that area. And
I appreciate that.
And because just for this, little bit of time I'm talking to you, you have, the experience and the target on what you think you should be, fixating on, as far as not doing what has been failing all this time, trying to, break new ground and, think outside the box. And with the whole thing that you say behind the vibrational flux thing, I've called dimensional phasing. Now, what my idea of things is, if you ever seen the desktop pendulums that have the different length strings with the bearings tied to them, and when you let them go, they all kind of swing in phase, but after a while the harmonics will unbalance them and they'll get unphased, and then after a period in a cycle they all come back into phase again and they'll swing together, and then they'll come out of phase and they'll go through cycles. And that's kind of like how it seems like that the paranormal, maybe it's the past, maybe it's a temporal dimension or some kind of temporal event that's phasing from then back into our time. Maybe it's something in another spatial dimension phasing with us just momentarily. It could be those things, but it's outside the realm of our ability to investigate, because, the budget for something like that, it's got to be in the trillions.
Yeah. I mean, look at CERN up there in Switzerland, that big proton exploder machine they got going on up there.
Yeah,
that's billions of dollars, and they're trying to decide create black matter, and it's just like, what do you that's a totally different dimension of existence that they're messing with. And that's, like you said, it takes money to even go to that distance. So I mean, right now we don't have that ability to get that far. Will it happen in the future? I would love to hope so. I mean, after I pass away and I can come back and haunt the shit out of all you guys, I hope someone can go out there and in the future and say, we got it. Bam, we got it. This is it. We finally found that other dimension, that other existence that's so unknown that now we know how to communicate with it. And, even Einstein talked about it, even though Einstein and some of his theories have been dismissed. You think about Thomas Edison, who created the phone. It was Edison or Mr. Bell.
Edison.
Was it Edison with the phone that he designed to talk to the dead?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Tesla. He thought of the unknown. He was trying to figure ways to tap into the unknown. So it's been around for years and years and years, and it's been talked about for thousands of years through urban legends and ghost stories. And yeah, have we grown some since then? Yeah, we have, but I don't think for the time that we're at now, opposed to back then with Tesla and Edison, I don't think we've grown fast enough or enough. I think we're still a little archaic in our designs of looking at things. But I have hope in man in the paranormal world that someday some guy's going to go, got it.
Right. And you mentioned string theory is a theoretical form of physics now. And what's interesting
Yes.
about the string theory stuff and the M theory stuff is they're talking about multiple dimensions. And they're
Right.
talking about, all these things that are not provable yet. They're not experimental. But what's interesting is they're starting to try to make sense of gravity. I know Einstein said gravity is not really a force, but it's the curve of space time, and we're just following with the curve of space time. What's interesting is they're still chasing after it as if it was a force, and they're having problems. They're not being able to do that. So they're trying to devise all these ways, like string theory, to explain it. And I just think that it's weird that all these scientists kind of like trying to find ways around what other people has, succeeded in the scientific community. And it just seems like it kind of relates to the paranormal field in that way.
Yeah. Well,
And
have you ever heard of Michio Kaku?
oh yeah, he's a theoretical physicist in string theory.
Yeah, he's one. Yeah, exactly. He's one of the founders of the string theory. One of, but if anybody wants to learn about stuff like that, read up on his. Go to his website. He's friggin' amazing.
Hmm.
But here's the thing: what you're saying about the gravity part. The movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey.
Great movie.
It's all about that. And if you go behind, if you get the DVD or the Blu-ray, and I'm not trying to promote them, but it's good to get it. There's the bonus disc that talks with scientists, and I think I can't remember if Michio Kaku's on there or not, but I know there's a couple of theoretical scientists on there that talk about the whole gravity theory and the unknown. And it's when I watched that movie and I watched it behind the scenes and the bonus features, I was like, oh my God, this is what me and Pat been talking about for so long. And I've heard other people like yourself and other people who've been saying the same thing. And then they bring this movie out, and it's a paranormal movie a setting. And because if you think about it, if anybody that's seen the movie, the little girl saying the ghosts are talking to me, keep knocking the books off the shelf. And Matthew McConaughey's character is like, no, there's no such thing as ghosts. We don't talk about that. But the movie is a paranormal movie, and people need to stop and watch it and kind of like think about it. And it will help. I think it will actually help the paranormal community to develop their minds in a different direction.
It can, and I like the analogy and the way you related that movie with the paranormal. I thought the same thing too, and they kind of touched on it in the film because his daughter was thinking that they were ghosts communicating with her when it was actually her dad in another time. And that
Right.
reaches back to when I was saying other temporal periods and dimensions arc back and phase in. So I strongly believe that that is most likely the case in a lot of situations. Spirits and things that happen with no stimuli or reaction to the people who observe them. That has to be what's going on. And
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you.
the rare thing is that they actually interact and attack you, like you said. Not everybody goes through that. So that's the part where we're really like, well, what the heck is that? So there's a lot of things to understand in the
Right.
paranormal, and hopefully that you still have some gas left in the tank in that area, and hopefully you can come, to find some answers on your journey through, your lifetime. And anytime you need help
Yeah.
or support, buddy, I'm here for you.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely, man. And that's what I think all of us need to do. Not all of us are perfect. We all make mistakes.
Yes.
Hell, I have recently. And it's just we got to learn from our mistakes, And I'm not perfect. I'm just a normal guy, just like anybody else. Just trying to get through time. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is that bringing back forgotten history. And hopefully with that forgotten history, we can get some kind of sense of idea of what's going on currently now with the unknown.
I agree. I think the more we understand about history, the more we'll understand about ourselves and where we came from, and most importantly, when it involves the paranormal, why we refuse to let go or why we don't want to let go of the past. Why does it linger? Why why does it linger physically and metaphysically? And all of those questions need to be answered up front, I think, when it comes to our history and on our reasoning behind attaching and not letting go of that.
Right. I agree, man. I absolutely agree, dude.
Well, it's almost, we got 8 minutes left, buddy. It's been awesome talking to you. This turned out way better than I could ever dreamed it could have. Why don't you take this remaining time and let people know where they can see your film, where they can see your work that you've been working so hard doing. Plug away.
Well, what I'm doing right now, the website is actually in the transition to become Creepy Attic Productions' full website. It will have all the information. Right now, you can actually buy a copy of the DVD, The Mansell Shepherd Story, through my website. It's at www.tspnorthernkentucky.com. It will say Creepy Attic Productions. I'm also working on a film. We're in post or pre-production, not post. We're in pre-production of a new movie. I'm actually going full movie on this one. It's a horror movie. Yeah, it's got a paranormal story to it, but and I'm going to have a lot of things in there that we've heard through the years, you and I, that people have made mistakes in the paranormal field, but it's actually a horror film. And this is a motion picture. It's full production, and it's about this little girl that's standing next to me. It's a little creepy doll called Rosalie.
That is creepy.
Yeah, this is in my office, and it's a quite interesting story, and I can't wait to start shooting that. We will be shooting in May. So that's going to be an exciting project. But everything else you can find out about my book, Chasing the Haunt. It's my life story. What we talked about, you and I talked about with my family and up until current events now. And what else is on my website is also, the Mansell Shepherd Story and the pre-production of Rosalie. So we're pretty excited about that, and some other films and other projects that I have done that a lot of people might not know about. Like there's a haunted theme park down in Lexington, Kentucky called Wicked World, and I did their promos for them. Stuff for them. I've done stuff for Rick Hayes, and we're going to be doing some stuff together. I will be doing more stuff together in 2018 with the Paraholics with Matthew Jackson and Mike Caldwell. Which I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know how much time we got, but I'll make it quick. That I'm not a person that likes ghost boxes. I can't stand the stuff. But Matthew Jackson made me a believer out of a geobox, and I still have tested it many times, try to disprove it, and I haven't been able to disprove it yet. And I will continue to challenge a geobox every day. But so far, it's been surprisingly amazing responses and things that I've witnessed with that. And I can tell you right now, Matthew Jackson is one hell of a guy to ever work with. If you guys get a chance, I recommend it, dude. Seriously, he's an amazing dude.
Is that the Paraholics guy?
Yep, sure is.
All right, that's what I thought. I didn't want to get that wrong in case he's watching, because he'd probably be like, "Man, come on." But we're not on the rigid time scale, but I don't like to linger on. I try to keep it to an hour. Real quick, there's some people wanting to say hi to you in chat. Tina Nichols, Greenup County Paranormal is saying what's up. They love your work. Lots of love in the chat. We've been busy. They've been just chatting away this whole time. They seem like they've been enjoying themselves. All of the links, Chris's website is in the cards of this video and in the description of the video. I got all his stuff easily accessible in this video and live stream. Please, guys, check Chris out. He's got 5 seasons of what's it called? Exploration Unknown.
The Search Existence Unknown.
Okay, Search Existence Unknown, and his new thing that he just now put out, the book. If you're into reading books, I'm going to be willing to bet that this book is not going to be your typical book. It's going to be something that's probably pretty unique and pretty interesting. And I'm actually thinking about getting it now once I've heard the story that surrounds it, because I kind of want to know more. I know that there's got to be a lot more to it.
Yeah, there is. There's a little bit of comedy, there's a little bit of sadness, and there's a little bit of drama. There's a lot of history.
Sweet, man. All right, well, thanks again, man, for coming on the show. You are an awesome guest. I hope to see you too, or see you soon. And
Yeah,
maybe, just maybe, the stars might align and we may get to work together. And
dude, I would love that.
that would be cool. We're not very far away from each other, so it may happen.
Well, let me just put this in your ear. Do you know where Middletown is?
Yes, I know where Middletown is.
Okay, maybe we'll work there.
Okay, that would be a good place to start, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be a great place.
Yeah, we've seen each other there. We both know Daryl, and that
Yeah.
place is interesting as fuck.
You know what, dude? I'm going to tell you right now before you got to end this. Daryl Wistman and his wife Brenda are the most amazing fucking people I have met. He is such a good man, and his place is the greatest mystery to me to this day. Um, it's that place is off the hook, and Daryl will tell you right now he never believed into it until he lived there for so long. And God, they're such humble people, and they're great people, and that place is just fucking insane. It is.
It is. And the most interesting thing was when I first met Daryl. Real quick, he is still so torn about not wanting to believe but having to believe because of his experience,
Right.
and he's just like, "What do you think, man? What do you think's going on?" I was like, "Dude, there's something going on." And I swear to God, I've heard his own voice, something that sounds exactly like him, come out of my SB7 more than once, and that's crazy.
Yeah, him and I have sat there in his living room, and I look at the door going down the hallway, and I said, "Did you just see that lady?" He goes, "Yeah, that happens a lot." I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? There's a lady just walked by, and
Wow.
she's not here."
Right. Well, that's another show. I'm going to let you go, Chris. Get some sleep.
Thanks, bud.
Keep it together, brother. If you ever need help, you know where to find me. You know how to get a hold of me. Everybody, check out Chris Maggard. He's on YouTube. He's got his own website. Go check him out and go spam his subscribe button on his channel. Will you guys?
Amen. Thanks, brother.
You have a good night, brother.
You too, man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, guys. There you have it. Chris Maggard. He is a pretty interesting dude with a very interesting story. There's nothing boring about what we just experienced on this show. He has his book telling his life story. He has all this film work he's been doing. Check out his website. That's where the hub of everything he does can be found. Thanks, everybody that's been in the chat, giving this show the support that I have been, starving for. I want to talk to these people. I want to talk to people with similar stories that I can relate to. People who have that passion to find out what they know in their heart and soul is real, but they just don't know how to understand or explain. So, if you fit this criteria, if you can relate to this, reach out to me on the Necromancer live show Facebook page. Message me. Go to my email address at justinbrown@interfacedeath.net. Email me. Let me know you want to be on this show. Comment on this video and post. There is a million ways to get a hold of me. Check us out at interfacedeath.net. I'll go over here to the social screen and let you see all these links. If you are really, really, really interested in supporting what I do, you can go to our Patreon page and find out how you can get rewarded and donate to our cause. It's at the link at the screen. There's a link in the description. It's easy to get to. Check us out on the Necromancer Live Show on Facebook. We're my personal paranormal group called Interface Death, can be found on Twitter and Instagram right there in front of you. And please check me out along with Chris Maggard. Okay, guys. At the end of the show, I always shout out our Patreons that do support us on Patreon. We have Matt Bitton, Jason Boggs, and Clay Borman. There's 3 tiers that I won't go into that I used to go into the show, but if you're interested in finding out how you can get rewarded, go onto our Patreon and find out what cool rewards there is. If you guys want to stick around for a couple minutes after the show, I got a couple trailers and some promotional things that you can watch before we end. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Let's see who our next guest is. I know we got some things coming up. I know me and Matt Benton are going to be up at the House of Wills in Cleveland, Ohio, filming the last location of Man vs. Paranormal. But we have Debbie and John Holiday on next week. So Matt's not coming up yet. We get, Daywalker's Paranormal up on the Necromancer live show. So if you know John and Debbie, they are super cool people. They have their own show and paranormal group. We get to talk to them. Until next time, you all are in my hearts. I love you and respect each and every one of you. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one. Check out some of the stuff coming up, guys. You have a good night.
Came from a long way. We've been coveting this place for a long time. We're willing to stay here for hours and hours and hours through the night, trying to understand, is there an afterlife? Is this place haunted? Does it bother you that we're here? Yeah, it bothers me. Is that what it said? How many fingers am I holding up? Did it just say 4? Yeah.